there was a press release put out by the White House. This is an official White House press release. And the whole point of that press release was to justify to the UN Security Council the illegal war that the United States started against Iran. Now, it is an illegal war. Iran didn't attack us, and we decided to attack them and literally kill the Ayatollah, that's pretty unprecedented. That's not something that's supposed to happen, right? But anyway, so the government comes out with this official press release in order to try to defend themselves and justify the war as a legal war. And it's amazing, because you know what they write in it? They literally write, and I'm quoting it verbatim, "The United States is engaged in this conflict at the request of and in the collective self-defense of its Israeli ally." We don't have any security treaty or security pact with Israel at all. So number one, this is not a justification for starting an illegal war with Iran. Arguing that we did it because Israel requested it though, I'm glad that they put that on paper in an official White House press release. So as much as Israel's vocal defenders in this country want to make it seem as though Trump made this decision on his own and that Israel had nothing to do with it, Israel had everything to do with it. In fact, I guarantee if Israel was not an ally of the United States, we wouldn't go to war with Iran, a country of 92 million people.
Not even close. We have there's no reason to go to war with Iran. Netanyahu said as soon as the war started, this is the culmination of my 40-year plan. And his plan was for us to attack 7 countries. And guess what we've done? We've attacked all 7 countries that Israel wanted us to attack. They had nothing to do with us, everything to do with Israel. And so now cable news guys will see that. Us literally saying officially, we did this for Israel, that's our justification. And then they'll turn around and say, how dare you? That has nothing to do with it. It's conspiratorial, it's anti-Semitic. So is the US government anti-Semitic?
I guess so.
Because they just said, we did it for Israel. Yeah. And they put it down on paper. So guys, last thing is, how is this thing going to end if it's going to end? So because then, in order to know that, you have to know why we actually started the war. And it has nothing to do with enrichment. In fact, Israel's been trying to get us out of the nuclear deal the entire time, because the nuclear deal that Obama did made sure that they couldn't enrich uranium. And so that robbed Israel of the excuse they wanted for their actual purposes. And their actual purposes is twofold. One's about Iran and one's about Lebanon, okay? Lebanon's easy. They want to have the whole world distracted and use American troops, etc., to attack Iran. And while they go into Lebanon and steal southern Lebanon, and then they get the American media to go, they were doing self-defense, they're the victims, and all the lies and propaganda. And hey, look at that neat little magic trick, we gain more territory for greater Israel. And you can see with your own eyes they're doing that now. And then the second reason is in Iran, they wanted a regime change. Now that's impossible, but they had a backup plan. The backup plan is civil war, same thing that they did in Syria and in Libya and in Sudan. So this is a worn path that the Israelis have created. Why do they create civil wars where tons of people die and it lasts decades and it destroys the country?
Because they love it?
Because, well, no, okay, maybe they also
certainly do.
Terrorists are sadistic by nature, and that is the entire Israeli government, obviously. But really, the main objective reason is because then that country is too distracted to be able to fund anything that helps the Palestinians or the Lebanese or anyone that Israel is stealing land from. So that's why they want Iran destroyed. So if they want Iran destroyed, which is still possible, and they want to steal southern Lebanon, well, they need the war to keep going. And if we leave, guys, this is really important. According to some analysts, I'm not a military expert, but Israel couldn't last a day without us in these wars. So if that's the case, they're never going to let us out of their vice grip.
Unless you actually have real leaders in this country.
No chance. I mean, yes, in 2028. But as things stand now, almost like Schumer, JD Vance, Hakeem Jeffries, and Donald Trump, the 4 main, you throw in Mike Johnson, the 5 main leaders in this country, in both the Republican and Democratic Party, their #1 donor lifetime is the Israeli lobby. They completely and utterly work for the Israeli lobby, and they will do exactly as they are commanded and ordered by the government of Israel. And anyone who says, no, hundreds of millions of dollars don't affect these greasy scum politicians is an obvious liar and not a reporter. Look, one of the biggest problems with political media right now isn't just bias. It's how quickly the same story gets spun into two completely different realities depending on who's telling it. That's why I recommend Ground News. It's a website and app that pulls together reporting from across the political spectrum so you can compare how the same story is being covered, who's covering it, and what kind of narrative they're pushing. Now take this story about Pete Hegseth refusing to rule out US troops on the ground in Iran. On Ground News, you can immediately see how differently outlets frame that same development. The Daily Signal downplays the danger by stressing that this isn't Iraq and that the war won't be endless. Meanwhile, NBC focused on the important part, that Hegseth would not rule out American boots on the ground in Iran. Same story, two completely different realities. And Ground News makes that obvious right away. You can compare headlines side by side, see the biased distribution of the coverage, check the factuality ratings of the sources, and even see who owns the outlets behind the reporting. That matters because once you understand how stories are being framed, you start to see how public consent gets manufactured. Ground News also has a blind spot feed that highlights stories that one side of the political spectrum is barely covering. So you're not just trapped inside the version of the world your algorithm wants to feed you. If you're tired of being fed somebody else's narrative, I genuinely recommend Ground News. Go to ground.news/TYT or scan the QR code. Using our link gets you 40% off the Ground News Vantage plan. And you can also gift a subscription directly through Ground News. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.